how do we move away from this constant striving for the perfect thing or the perfect appearance and make our lives more realistic, but also more enjoyable, more fun, more relaxed, more, all that good stuff. Hello, my loves. Today, we're going to talk about perfectionism. And I'm sure you have, like me, experienced a little bit of perfectionism, or definitely seen it in other people, maybe in a more obvious way. There's so much around us in the world, in society, that's sort of asking us to be perfect, whether it's social media. Back in the olden days, it was the magazines. I don't know if you remember them. And they all are encouraging us, especially women, to strive for this perfection, whether it's in body, appearance, family, life, career, home, car, whatever it might be, this perfection. But I've seen, when I've been working with my clients, that striving towards this perfection and working within this kind of sense of perfectionism actually inhibits growth, and it makes people feel stuck. Why? Because perfectionism is inherently impossible, as we all know deep down, really. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I would like to especially give a shout out to Nelson Mandela. I had a quote on my wall for years, and it was a Nelson Mandela quote, and I'm going to just read it to make sure I don't get it wrong. So it said, "Do not judge me for my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again." Isn't that just amazing? That concept, it just kind of takes all that pressure away. Do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. So that's really the kind of the essence of what I would love for us to focus on today. I hope you'll join me. So in this video, I'm going to share some stories about my experience with perfectionism and how we even get there in the first place. How do we become perfectionists? How do we break away from the trap of perfectionism? So what I'd love you to remember as we talk about perfectionism is, if you are a perfectionist, that's great. Join the club. It's all okay. We're going to talk about it and figure out a way to unbind those perfectionist ties a little bit. And either way, I really want you to take home the fact that you are perfect just as you are right now, in this moment, no matter what. That's the most important message. So if that's the only thing you remember about this video, please make it be that. Okay, let's jump in. So we're in December and Christmas is coming. The festive season is upon us, and this is really one of those times where people can fall into the perfectionism trap, possibly more easily than at other times, because there's so much going on. There's Christmas coming, there's presents to buy, there's parties. We're under pressure to look perfect, be perfect, buy the perfect present, and a whole host of other things. So this is the perfect time to have this conversation. There, did you notice that? Perfect time to have this conversation, because there's so much going on. And if we can dial down the perfectionism in this time, it will make it so much more fun, relaxed, and enjoyable. So you'll be able to look back and really feel good about it and remember those fun memories rather than the stress and the intensity. So if you feel like you suffer from perfectionism, join the club, as I said. It's okay. And you developed this more than likely as a coping strategy for experiences that you had as a younger person or as a child. So one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram, and just in general, is called the Holistic Psychologist. You might have heard of her. And she explains perfectionism as a way that we've learned in childhood to cope with the situation we're in. So I'm going to read what she says to make sure I get it right. She says, perfectionism is the response of anyone who's had to work to be loved. So what that means is possibly when you were a child, you were praised and given love and approval for achieving things, doing the right thing, doing what you were told. But more importantly, possibly that love and approval was removed when you made mistakes or you weren't behaving in the way that was requested of you. So when we learn that we get love by doing the right thing, what other people want of us, and it's taken away when we don't, we start to learn that we need to strive to be perfect in order to gain that love and approval. And especially when we're little, that love and approval is really kind of essential to our survival. So you can see how it's kind of a genius adaptive strategy that you developed as a younger person. But as you get older and move through life, it becomes more cumbersome and it gets in the way. You might have found this. It makes you feel stuck. It can make you feel bad about yourself, and it can actually sort of limit your progress because you're constantly trying to achieve this impossible perfection rather than be good enough, keep moving forward, learn, make mistakes, get better. Can you see there's a slightly different trajectory, if I can get that word out? So I hope that explains how we develop perfectionism and why there's nothing to feel bad about at all, but it is something that we possibly need to unravel and unpick as we get older in order to really shake off the shackles of perfectionism. So as I said, perfectionism rears its ugly head at all times of year, but possibly especially around the festive Christmas, New Year times of year. So we've got the festive season. What have we got? We've got Christmas parties. We've got wrapping up the year, wrapping up work. You know, what have you achieved? How well have you done? And then we have family gatherings. You know, lots of people that you might not have seen for a while, people who might trigger you. You know, can we have the perfect family Christmas? And then we have New Year. The big transition where on that one day or one night that you're meant to, as society tells us, make these huge promises and life-changing commitments from one day to the next, and then ding, New Year, new you. Well, we all know that that is BS, right? Yes. So all these different pressures that we have coming up in December, Christmas, festive stuff, New Year. It's really a great time to put into practice some of these tools to help unravel perfectionism and to allow you to be more happy, more relaxed, and actually have that real connection with the people you're with and the different things that you're doing, the different parties and fun family events that you're going to allow you to really connect with people in a really real and imperfect way. And don't you find often it's when things go a bit wrong and when we are imperfect that we really enjoy, and those are the stories that we look back on, those are the stories that we tell people, those are the stories where we create connection and memorable moments, is when there is imperfection often. Right, so we're going to dive into the tools. Okay, so getting into the tools of how to unravel imperfection in your life, let's start by remembering that being present and being vulnerable are really the best ways that we can move forward and start to release the shackles of imperfection. So, tool number 1, embrace imperfection. As uncomfortable as that might be. As we've just discussed, imperfection and when things don't go quite to plan are often where the magic happens. So allow things to fall away, allow yourself to make mistakes, be kind to yourself when you do or when you don't quite do every single thing on the to-do list. That's definitely one for me, trying to get every single thing done on the to-do list. Be kind, be gentle, be a bit more realistic about what's coming up for you. That brings me perfectly to our second tool of setting realistic expectations. As you go into the festive season, set realistic expectations for your celebrations, for your parties, for your New Year's resolutions. And as you move through the period, be flexible. And if you need to change your goals and change your plans, that's absolutely fine. You do you. This brings me on to tool number 3, find joy in the little things. I love this. It's one of my favorite things to do all the time, but especially when we're trying to unravel imperfection. So find the little things that really make you feel good. I find them often when I'm out on a walk. So maybe you're having a Christmas Day walk with the family and look at what's around you, the birds in the sky, the trees, the leaves, the sun, that winter sun in the UK, for those of us in the UK, coming down through the clouds is really, really beautiful. So find the joy in the little things. And also remembering that the best bits often come from the imperfections. Like, remember that time Dad burnt the turkey? Or remember that time Aunt Mavis drank too much sherry? Those classic Christmas mistakes. So there we go. Tool 3, find the joy in the little things. Tool number 4, learn from your mistakes. So this is a great one. We all know perfection is an unattainable, impossible goal. Imperfection is reality. We're all going to make mistakes, big and little. What we can do, and what they're there for, is for us to really learn from them. So we don't need to be hard on ourselves. We don't need to come down on ourselves like a ton of bricks. We can be kind and compassionate, understanding that everyone makes mistakes. It's a normal part of life. But what could I learn from it? What could I maybe do differently next time? And how could I use this as a stepping stone to my personal development or to my growth? Now, tool number 5, this is really the most important one. And I have found sometimes the hardest. Practice self-compassion. So no matter what happens, ups, downs, mistakes, fun times, whatever, how kind can you be to yourself? One example that I've heard a brilliant teacher, I can't remember who it was, give for this, is imagine that you are either one of your really good friends that you really care about or a small child, and talk to them as if you were talking to yourself. So when you make a mistake, for example, and you're maybe feeling bad about it and you're feeling like maybe you need to punish yourself, think of yourself as a really good friend or that small child and talk to yourself as if you were talking to them. So that is a really, really good way. And often when we make mistakes, how we feel about ourselves and how we talk to ourselves about it is the worst bit. It's not actually the mistake itself or the results of that mistake. It's how we respond to it and how we treat ourselves. So really, really dig into this tool of self-compassion and talk to yourself and treat yourself kindly. I would challenge you, how kind and gentle can you be to yourself? So an example of how perfectionism shows up for me in my life, quite often it's to do with my body image. And it's something that I've noticed again and again throughout the years. And when I feel like I'm not living up to or achieving the sort of ideal body image that I feel I should be living up to, I can feel like a bit of a failure and I can be a bit hard on myself. And this is an area that I've really had to learn how to unravel that perfectionist trait and learn to do things differently. So I remember a very specific time. I had chronic fatigue and I was in bed for nearly a year. So I was really quite unwell. And obviously in that time, my body was going through the experience just as much as I was in my head and in my heart. And I remember lying in the bath at one point and looking down at my body. And it wasn't what I really, ideally wanted it to be. It was soft and it felt weak. And I remember thinking and having this really overwhelming feeling that my body deserves as much compassion as I can give it. It has carried me through all the good times and the bad, the pain, the heartache, all of it. And it is really a reflection of me and my life and my experiences, which are so deep and varied and meaningful and all the other things. So I learned to be kind and compassionate to myself around my body and understand that all different kinds of things are going to happen in our lives, and keeping that ideal picture perfect and the same in our minds and what we want to achieve is unrealistic, and it's not fair, and it's not helping you in the process of building the life that you want. So let's unravel that. And again, try to have self-compassion. And I hope that story has given you a little bit of insight, and maybe it's something that you can relate to either in that or another area of your life. Okay, we're getting off topic now. Let's get back into it. We are learning to heal perfectionism. We're learning how to unravel that perfectionist trait using the tools that I mentioned in order to help you enjoy a more fun, fulfilling, and hopefully relaxed festive time. Christmas, New Year, all the parties, etc. And remembering that we are being realistic, we're being self-compassionate, we're really, really taking care of ourselves, and understanding that this trait of perfectionism comes from a really well-meaning place, but it's not helping us anymore. So by using these little tools in our life, we can start to make progress and feel better, and really feel better about ourselves, so that we can support ourselves more fully as we move into creating our dreams and really building what we most want in our lives. So my loves, I hope this has given you some food for thought as you move into the festive season. And I hope, like me, we can join hands together and unravel some of that perfectionism, work on being a little bit more vulnerable, a bit more present, and embrace those imperfections, those mistakes when things go wrong. I would love to hear from you what your thoughts are and what your experiences are around this topic. Please pop them in the comments below. And if you would like to, please subscribe and share this video. It really, really helps. I'm sending you so much love, and I really hope you have a wonderful festive season, New Year, all of that, and I'll be seeing you very, very soon.